Hey guys, tonight we begin with something you weren't expecting. A king who survived everything, except his own lungs. Before we dive into this nightmare, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're here for the dark stuff. The real history, the parts they skip in textbooks. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe grab a blanket, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. In 1509, a man is dying in Richmond Palace. He's coughing blood into silk handkerchiefs, thick dark clots that stain the fabric black. His servants can smell it from the doorway, that sweet rot stench of death. They hold their breath when they enter his chambers. Try not to gag, try not to show it on their faces, because showing disgust in front of the king, even a dying king, can get you dismissed. Or worse, this isn't some peasant rotting in a gutter. This is the King of England, Henry VII, founder of the Tudor dynasty, the man who won a crown on a battlefield and held it for 24 years through sheer paranoid determination. His body has wasted to almost nothing, skin stretched over bones like parchment, eyes sunken so deep into his skull they look like dark holes, cheeks hollow, jaw sharp enough to cut. He looks like a corpse, but he's still breathing. Barely. Each breath is a wet, rattling struggle, like something liquid sloshing in his chest. And here's what makes it perfect. Darkly, cruelly, cosmically perfect. This man spent his entire life afraid, paranoid, clutching gold like it could save him, trusting no one, building walls of money around himself, because he was terrified of losing everything, of ending up with nothing, of being powerless again, like he was in exile. And now, his own body is betraying him, rotting from the inside, drowning him in his own blood. And there's not enough gold in England to stop it, not enough paranoia to prevent it, not enough control to change it. Henry VII, the survivor, the calculator, the miser king, dying alone in the dark while his servants count down the hours, while his son waits impatiently for the crown, while England holds its breath, not in grief, but in relief. Finally, the squeezing will stop, the taxation will end. The paranoid old man will be gone. Let's talk about how paranoia kills you, slowly, painfully, one cough at a time, one coin at a time, one sleepless night at a time, until there's nothing left but bones and fear and account books covered in shaky handwriting. Picture this. It's January 28th, 1457. Pembroke Castle, Wales, a stone fortress perched on the edge of the world. Cold, damp, unforgiving. Inside, a girl is screaming. She's 13 years old. Just 13. A child herself. And she's in labour. Her body isn't ready for this. She's too small, too young, too fragile. Lady Margaret Beaufort, 13. Married off at 12 to Edmund. Tudor, a political marriage, as they all were. Nobody asked if she was ready. Nobody cared. Her job was to produce an heir, to secure alliances, to be useful. And now she's paying the price. The birth is tearing her apart. Literally. Her small body splitting open to deliver a baby that's too big. The midwives are terrified, whispering prayers, crossing themselves, because this girl might die. This baby might die. Both might die. And then what? Another failed marriage, another political disappointment, another grave. But somehow they survive. Margaret and her son, Henry Tudor. He comes into the world screaming, covered in blood, alive, against all odds. Except Margaret will never recover. Not fully. The birth damaged her, scarred her, destroyed her reproductive organs. She's 13 years old, and her body is already broken. She'll never have another child. Henry is it, her only son, her entire world. Her whole purpose compressed into one tiny, screaming infant. And his father, Edmund Tudor, dead. 3 months before Henry was born, plague took him. Fever, infection. He was imprisoned at the time, fighting someone else's war. And disease doesn't care about nobility, doesn't care about politics, it just kills. So baby Henry, enters the world as essentially an orphan. No father, a traumatized child mother, and something dangerous in his blood. Something that will define his entire life and eventually kill him. A claim to the English throne. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because that claim, it's garbage, weak, questionable, laughable, honestly. Through his mother, he's descended from John of Gaunt. Sounds impressive. John of Gaunt was the son of Edward III, royal blood, proper lineage, except there's a catch, a big one. The Beaufort line, Margaret's line, came from John of Gaunt's mistress. Not his wife, his mistress, Catherine Swynford. They had children together while he was married to someone else. Bastards, illegitimate children. Sure, John of Gaunt eventually married Catherine, after his wife died. And yes, their children were legitimised by Parliament afterward. Royal decree, official recognition. But, and this is a huge but, they were legitimised with a specific clause. Excepta dignitatia regali, except for royal dignity. Translation: you can be legitimate, you can inherit property, you can be nobles, but you cannot inherit the throne. You are specifically, explicitly, legally barred from becoming king. Oops. So Henry has royal blood. Sort of, if you squint. If you ignore the whole bastard line thing, and the barred from succession thing, and the fact that there are about a dozen people with better claims. But it's 1455, and England is tearing itself apart. The Wars of the Roses. It started in 1455, 2 years before Henry was born, and it's brutal. York versus Lancaster. The red rose versus the white rose. Except it's not romantic, it's not chivalrous. It's cousins murdering cousins, brothers betraying brothers, nobles, switching sides every few months depending on who's winning. The throne changing hands like a game of musical chairs, except when the music stops, someone gets beheaded, or stabbed, or drowned, or mysteriously dies in their sleep. Henry grows up in Wales, hidden, protected, shuffled between castles, because even with his garbage claim, he's useful. He's a chess piece, a potential pawn. The Lancastrians, the losing side, need figureheads, need symbols, need anyone with even a drop of royal blood to rally around. In 1471, everything collapses. Henry's 14 years old. The Lancastrian cause is destroyed. King Henry VI, the Lancastrian king, murdered in the Tower of London. His son Edward, Prince of Wales, killed at the Battle of Tewkesbury. Slaughtered, the Yorkists win. Edward Thor secures his throne. The Lancastrian line is dead. Except for Henry Tudor, who's suddenly the last Lancastrian standing. Sort of, if you ignore all the legal problems with his claim. And Henry's uncle, Jasper Tudor, knows what's coming. The Yorkists will hunt down every last Lancastrian threat. Every male with even a trace of royal blood will be killed. So they run. Jasper smuggling 14-year-old Henry out of Wales in the middle of the night, across the sea to Brittany, a tiny duchy in France, neutral territory, barely. For the next 14 years, Henry lives in exile. Poor, forgotten by most, a political refugee surviving on the charity of the Duke of Brittany, who keeps him around because he's useful. A bargaining chip, leverage against England, a potential pretender to dust off if Brittany ever needs to cause problems. Henry lives in castles, yes, but not as a guest, as a prisoner. A well-treated prisoner, but still. Guards everywhere, not to protect him, to watch him, to make sure he doesn't escape, to make sure he doesn't become a problem. He has no money, no army, no supporters, no power. Just his mother, Margaret Beaufort, back in England, writing him letters in code, plotting, planning, praying. She remarries several times actually, always choosing powerful men who can protect her son from a distance. She's playing the long game, building alliances, waiting for an opportunity. And Henry's learning languages, French, Latin, Breton. He reads constantly, books on history, on warfare, on politics. He studies, he watches, he learns how power works, how thrones are stolen, how loyalty is bought and sold, how everyone betrays everyone, how survival means trusting no one. These lessons are burning into his brain, into his soul, warping him, hardening him, creating the paranoid king he'll become. In 1483, a miracle happens. Well, not a miracle, a catastrophe for England, but a miracle for Henry. King Edward IV dies suddenly. He's only 40 years old, but he's lived hard. Too much food, too much wine, too many women. His body gives out. And his heir, Edward V, is 12 years old, too young to rule alone. So Edward IV's brother, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, is named Lord Protector, Regent. He's supposed to guide the young king until he's old enough to rule properly. Except Richard has other ideas. Within months, he declares young Edward V illegitimate, a bastard, unfit to rule. Why? Because Edward IV's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville was allegedly invalid, pre-contracted to someone else. Secret marriage that makes all the children bastards. It's a flimsy excuse, probably fabricated. But Richard has the power. He has the army. He has control of London, so Richard seizes the throne for himself. Richard III, and young Edward V and his little brother, Richard, Duke of York, the two princes, are locked in the Tower of London. For their protection, allegedly. Except nobody believes that. And then the princes disappear. Just vanish. No bodies, no explanations. Gone. England is horrified. Everyone knows what happened. Richard murdered them. Probably smothered them in their sleep. Threw their bodies in the Thames. Buried them somewhere. The specifics don't matter. 2 children are dead. And Richard III killed them to secure his throne. The Yorkist cause is poisoned now. Tainted. Richard is king, but he's a child murderer, an usurper. His legitimacy is shattered before it even begins. Rebellions start forming immediately. Nobles who supported Edward IV are having second thoughts. Some switch sides entirely. And suddenly Henry Tudor, the forgotten exile with the garbage claim, becomes interesting again. He's the only alternative. The only living candidate with any royal blood who isn't Richard III. Letters start arriving in Brittany. Secret messages, promises of support, promises of soldiers, promises of gold. Margaret Beaufort is working overtime, writing everyone, making deals, arranging alliances. And she pulls off something brilliant. She negotiates with Elizabeth Woodville, Edward IV's widow, the Yorkist queen. A deal. Henry will marry Elizabeth of York, Edward IV's daughter, the Yorkist princess. Lancaster and York united. Red rose and white rose. One throne, one dynasty. It's perfect, on paper. In 1485, Henry decides it's time. He's 28 years old. He's been in exile for 14 years, half his life. He's tired of waiting, tired of being powerless, tired of living on charity. He borrows money from the French king, gathers mercenaries, about 5,000 men. It's not much. Most are foreign soldiers who don't speak English. Some Welsh volunteers join him when he lands. But it's still a pitiful force compared to Richard III's army. They meet at Bosworth Field, August 22nd, 1485, Leicestershire, open countryside. Richard has maybe 10,000 to 12,000 men, experienced soldiers, battle-hardened, knights, cavalry. This should be a slaughter. Henry should die here. His head should end up on a spike in London. His body should be dumped in an unmarked grave. The Tudor pretender, forgotten within a generation. But here's where betrayal wins the day. Lord Stanley is fighting for Richard. Technically, he has his own army, maybe 3,000 men, positioned on the battlefield, waiting. Richard expects Stanley to fight for him, except Stanley's been talking to Henry, making deals, calculating. His stepson is with Henry, and Stanley's been promised rewards if Henry wins. Titles, land, power. So when Richard charges, when he tries to kill Henry personally, when he's exposed and vulnerable, Stanley makes his choice. His forces attack Richard's army, not Henry's. Richard's. Richard is surrounded, outnumbered, cut down, killed. His body stripped of armour, naked, thrown over a horse like a dead animal, paraded through the streets of Leicester, humiliated even in death. The crown, according to legend, is found in a hawthorn bush on the battlefield. Maybe it fell off Richard's head during the fighting. Maybe someone hid it. Doesn't matter. The symbolism is perfect. A crown in a bush, found by accident, given to a nobody. Lord Stanley picks it up, places it on Henry Tudor's head, right there on the battlefield, surrounded by corpses, covered in blood and mud and the stench of death. Henry VII, King of England, first of the Tudor dynasty. He's 28 years old. He's never ruled anything, never commanded an army before today, never even lived in England as an adult. And now he's king. Except he's not really, because Henry knows the truth, the secret that will poison his entire reign. He didn't win because he was strong. He didn't win because of his claim. He didn't win because God favoured him. He won because nobles betrayed their king, because Lord Stanley calculated that Henry was a better bet, because loyalty is bought and sold, because thrones are stolen, not inherited. What was won through betrayal can be lost the same way. That knowledge burrows into Henry's mind, into his heart, into his soul, and it never leaves. The paranoia starts right here, on this battlefield, surrounded by corpses and traitors. Henry knows he's an imposter, a nobody who stumbled onto a throne, and he'll spend the next 24 years waiting for someone to take it away, waiting for the betrayal, waiting for the knife in the back, clutching power so tightly his fingers bleed, trusting no one, not even himself. And that paranoia, that fear, eventually it's going to kill him, slowly, painfully, while he counts gold and coughs blood. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, Henry has to survive, has to consolidate power, has to make sure England accepts him. And the first step, marriage. The deal his mother negotiated, Elizabeth of York, the Yorkist princess, tall, blonde, beautiful apparently, Edward IV's daughter. Everything Henry isn't. She was born royal, raised in palaces, educated, graceful. She knows how to be a princess, how to smile, how to charm, how to play the part. Henry? Awkward, stiff, formal. He doesn't know how to charm people, doesn't know how to relax, doesn't know how to be anything other than suspicious and calculating. Because that's what kept him alive for 14 years. They marry on January 18th, 1486, 5 months after Bosworth. Not immediately. That's crucial. That's Henry's first calculated move as king. Because if he married Elizabeth right away, it would look like he needed her claim. Like he was only king because he married the Yorkist princess. Like his claim was so weak he had to borrow legitimacy. So he waits, gets crowned first, December 1485. Henry VII crowned by his own right, by conquest, by victory. Then marries Elizabeth. Everything with Henry is calculated, every move, every decision, every smile. He's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. The marriage is functional. That's the best description. There's no evidence they hated each other. But there's also no evidence of great romance. No love letters, no poetry, no grand gestures. They do their duty. Elizabeth gets pregnant quickly. Their first son Arthur is born September 20th, 1486, 9 months after the wedding. Healthy, strong, the heir England desperately needs, named Arthur, after the legendary King Arthur, the greatest British king who ever lived, according to myth. Henry's making a statement. This dynasty is legitimate. This dynasty will be great. This dynasty will unite Britain. More children follow. Margaret in 1489, Henry in 1491, the future Henry VIII, Edmund in 1499, Mary in 1496. More, 8 children total. 4 survived to adulthood, which is actually pretty good for medieval times. Infant mortality is brutal. About half of children die before age 5. Disease, malnutrition, accidents, infections. So 4 surviving children? Henry's doing better than most. By medieval standards, it's a successful marriage. Heirs produced, duty fulfilled, Dynasty secured. But love? Probably not. Henry never really trusts Elizabeth. Can't. She's Yorkist. Her family was destroyed. Her brothers disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Her uncle Richard died fighting against Henry. Does she resent him? Does she hate him quietly? Does she whisper to her ladies-in-waiting about the Lancastrian usurper who stole her family's throne? Henry doesn't know, can't know, so he watches her, monitors her household, controls her money. She's not allowed independent funds, not allowed political decisions, not allowed to interfere in governance. She's queen consort, a womb and a symbol. Nothing more. When she dies in 1503, on her birthday actually, giving birth to their 8th child, a daughter who also dies, Henry's reaction is complicated. He grieves. Accounts say he withdrew from court, shut himself in his chambers, refused to see anyone for days, wore black for months, but he doesn't fall apart, doesn't lose his mind with sorrow, doesn't romanticize their marriage afterward. She was useful, the mother of his heirs, the symbol of York and Lancaster united, the proof that his dynasty was legitimate. And now she's gone. He's lost that political tool, that symbol, that legitimacy. Here's what no one tells you. About Henry VII, he's not a villain. He's not evil, not really. He's just empty, hollowed out. All those years in exile, all that fear, all that survival, it burned away everything human. He doesn't know how to love, doesn't know how to trust, doesn't know how to be vulnerable. He only knows how to survive and control and calculate, always calculating. After Elizabeth's death, something shifts. Henry gets darker, more withdrawn, more obsessed with money and control. And his body? It starts to fail. The cough begins, subtle at first, just a tickle, a slight irritation, nothing serious. But before we get to the dying, we need to talk about the pretenders, because Henry's throne is never secure, never safe. There's always someone claiming they're the real king, someone saying they have a better claim, someone gathering an army, someone plotting in the shadows, and Henry has to deal with them, again and again and again, until the paranoia becomes a permanent state of being, until he can't sleep without checking the shadows, until every cough sounds like an assassin, every footstep sounds like betrayal. Imagine being king. You've won, defeated your enemies, married the right person, had heirs. Your dynasty is secure, except it's not. Because 2 years after Bosworth, in 1487, a boy appears in Ireland. He's about 10 years old. He claims to be Edward, Earl of Warwick, the son of George, Duke of Clarence, a Yorkist heir, someone with a better claim to the throne than Henry. A legitimate claim. Not the garbage Beaufort line. Real Plantagenet blood. Except there's a huge problem with this claim. The real Earl of Warwick is locked up in the Tower of London. Henry's been keeping him there since he took the throne. Under guard, alive, very much alive. So this Irish boy is obviously fake, obviously a fraud. But Ireland doesn't care. Irish nobles hate English rule anyway. They see an opportunity, a chance to cause chaos, to strike at Henry. They rally around this pretender, crown him, build an army around him. The boy, Lambert Simnel, his real name, is the son of an Oxford tradesman, a nobody. Some priest, Richard Simon, found him, trained him, taught him how to walk like nobility, how to speak, how to act royal. It's a scam, a fraud, everyone knows it. But that doesn't matter, because an army is forming, and they invade England, cross the Irish Sea with about 8,000 men, German mercenaries, Irish soldiers, Yorkist loyalists who refuse to accept Henry. They land in Lancashire, start marching south, gathering supporters, and for a moment Henry must be terrified. Is this it? Is this how it ends? Betrayed like Richard III? Defeated by a pretender? His throne stolen by a fake prince? But Henry doesn't panic. He gathers his army, larger, better equipped, better trained. They meet at Stokefield, June 16th, 1487. The battle is brutal. Thousands die, blood everywhere. The pretender's army is crushed, slaughtered. The German mercenaries fight to the death. The Irish soldiers break and run. And Lambert Simnel, the fake earl, he's captured alive, dragged before Henry. This is the moment. This is where medieval kings usually execute rebels, make examples, put heads on spikes, show the realm what happens to traitors. But Henry doesn't, because Henry's smarter than that. Executing a 10-year-old boy, even a fake prince, would look tyrannical, cruel, monstrous. It would create sympathy, create a martyr. People would whisper about the child killed by the paranoid king. So Henry does something brilliant, something cruel in a different way. He spares the boy, publicly, makes a show of mercy, reveals him as a fraud, son of a tradesman, a puppet, a tool used by rebels, and then Henry gives him a job. In the royal kitchens, turning spits, roasting meat over fires, the lowest position, the most humiliating. Later, years later, Henry promotes him to falconer, taking care of the king's hunting birds. Lambert Simnel lives out his entire life as a royal servant, a living joke, a walking reminder of what happens when you challenge Henry Tudor. You don't die heroically. You don't become a legend. You get mocked, reduced, erased, turned into a punchline. It's genius, twisted genius, but the pretenders don't stop. Because the Yorkist cause isn't dead. It's wounded, desperate, grasping at anything, and desperate people believe anything if it gives them hope. 1491, 4 years after Lambert Simnel, a new pretender appears. This one's better, more convincing, more dangerous, more believable. Perkin Warbeck. He's in his late teens, early 20s. Hard to tell. He shows up first in Ireland, then moves to Burgundy, then France, then Scotland. A European tour of pretending to be a prince. His story is this. He claims to be Richard, Duke of York, the younger of the two princes in the Tower, the ones who disappeared under Richard III. According to Warbeck, he wasn't murdered. He was spared, smuggled out, hidden for years, raised in secret, and now he's come back to reclaim his throne. His brother's dead, allegedly, but he survived. He's the rightful king. Unlike Lambert Simnel, Perkin Warbeck is believable. He's the right age, mid-20s by the 1490s. He speaks English, he speaks French, he has manners, education. He looks the part, acts the part, and here's what makes him truly dangerous. Foreign rulers take him seriously. Margaret of Burgundy, Edward IV's sister, publicly recognises him as her nephew. She gives him money, supports him, hosts him at her court. King Charles VIII of France welcomes him, uses him as leverage against Henry. King James IV of Scotland not only welcomes him, but marries him to a Scottish noblewoman. Lady Catherine Gordon treats him like royalty. This isn't some Irish rebellion anymore. This is an international conspiracy. Foreign powers backing a pretender to destabilise England, to weaken Henry, to create chaos. And some English nobles start wondering, whispering, is it possible? Could this actually be Richard of York? Could the younger prince have survived? The story's compelling, the boy's convincing. Foreign rulers believe him. Why shouldn't we? Henry is furious and terrified because this is exactly what he feared. Betrayal, conspiracy, pretenders with foreign backing. For 6 years, Perkin Warbeck haunts him. Invasion attempts, failed landings. In 1495, Warbeck tries to land in Kent. The locals drive him off. They're loyal to Henry, or at least they're not willing to risk rebellion for a maybe prince. In 1496, he's in Scotland. James IV launches raids into northern England, burning, pillaging, using Warbeck as an excuse. In 1497, Warbeck lands in Cornwall. And this time, it almost works, because Cornwall is already in rebellion, a tax revolt. Henry's been squeezing the kingdom for money, and Cornwall's had enough. They're furious, they're armed, they're marching. And when Perkin Warbeck lands, claiming to be the rightful king, thousands join him. Thousands. For a moment, It looks like it might actually succeed. Like Henry might lose everything. But Henry's army is larger, better trained, better funded. Because Henry hoards money obsessively, remember? He's prepared for this. His forces crush the Cornish rebellion, slaughter them, thousands dead. And Warbeck? He flees, tries to claim sanctuary in Beaulieu Abbey. The church is supposed to protect you. Sanctuary is sacred. Henry's men drag him out. Sanctuary means nothing. Not to Henry, not when his throne's at stake. Warbeck is captured, paraded through London on horseback. Humiliated, forced to read a public confession. He admits he's not Richard, Duke of York. He's Perkin Warbeck, son of a boatman from Tournai, a fraud, a puppet, a nobody. Henry doesn't execute him immediately. That would be too merciful, too quick. Instead, he locks him in the Tower of London, lets him rot for 2 years, 2 years of imprisonment, of fear, of waiting. In 1499, Warbeck allegedly tries to escape, allegedly conspires with Edward, Earl of Warwick. Remember him? The real one. The one who's been imprisoned since childhood, since Henry took the throne. He's been locked up for 14 years. He's in his mid-20s now, never tasted freedom, never ruled, never lived. Just rotted in a cell because he had Yorkist blood. Whether the escape attempt was real or fabricated doesn't matter. Probably fabricated. Probably Henry's excuse. Henry needs to tie up loose ends, needs to eliminate threats, needs to secure his throne permanently. Both men are executed. Warbeck is hanged at Tyburn. Public execution. Crowd watching. Body left to swing. Edward, Earl of Warwick, is beheaded on Tower Hill. Quick, almost merciful. He's the last legitimate Yorkist heir, the last male with a direct claim. With him dead, there are no more pretenders, no more rebellions, no more threats. Henry's throne is finally secure. Except it's not. Not in his mind. Because Henry knows the truth. His claim was weak. His throne was won through betrayal. And if it happened to Richard III, it can happen to him. So he trusts no one, watches everyone, monitors his own son, keeps nobles under bonds, and starts squeezing England for every penny it has. Because if loyalty can't be bought, at least betrayal can be expensive. Now let's talk about money, because this is where Henry VII transforms from survivor king into something genuinely disturbing, from understandable paranoia into obsessive, destructive hoarding. Henry inherited a broke kingdom. The Wars of the Roses drained the treasury. Decades of civil war. Armies razed and destroyed. Nobles bankrupted. Towns burned. The economy shattered. Edward IV left debts. Richard III barely had time to collect taxes before he was killed. So when Henry takes the throne, England is poor. And Henry? He's terrified of being poor, because he knows what poverty feels like. He's lived it. 14 years in exile, living on charity, dependent on foreign rulers who could betray him at any moment, wearing borrowed clothes, eating borrowed food, sleeping in borrowed beds, powerless, humiliated, surviving day by day. Never again. Never, ever again. So Henry becomes obsessed with money, not just collecting it, hoarding it, clutching it, counting it, obsessing over it. He doesn't spend on luxuries, doesn't throw lavish feasts like other kings, doesn't build grand palaces, doesn't fight expensive wars if he can avoid them. Every penny is scrutinized, every expense questioned, every account audited. He squeezes, he extracts, he finds every possible way to drain his kingdom. Taxes, he revives old forgotten taxes, fees that haven't been collected in decades, creates new taxes, demands payment for everything. Want to inherit your father's lands? Pay a relief fee. Want to get married? Marriage license fee. Want to trade? Export duties, import duties, tolls on every road, fees for using markets, fees for brewing beer, fees for everything. But here's where it gets truly disturbing, where it crosses from smart fiscal policy into genuinely oppressive tyranny. Henry uses something called bonds and recognizances, essentially debt instruments, financial leverage. If you're a noble, if you're wealthy, if you're even slightly suspicious, Henry forces you to post bond. Thousands of pounds, huge amounts, more than most people earn in a lifetime. It's insurance, he says, proof of loyalty. You post the bond, you stay loyal, you get it back. Eventually. Maybe, probably not. But if you step out of line, even slightly, even whisper a complaint, even look at someone wrong, Henry seizes the bond, all of it. You're financially ruined, destroyed, your land sold, your family impoverished, and you can't argue, can't fight it in court, can't appeal. The king's word is law. Nobles live in constant terror. One wrong word, one missed payment, one complaint overheard by the wrong person. Financial annihilation. Some nobles are under bonds for their entire lives, paying and never getting free, passing the debt to their children. Henry also sells positions. Everything's for sale. Want to be a bishop? Pay up. Want to be a judge? Better have gold. Want any government office? Make an offer. The church is furious. The Pope is supposed to appoint bishops, not the king, but Henry doesn't care. He needs money more than he needs papal approval. And if you're wealthy, even if you're innocent, even if you're loyal, Henry finds ways to accuse you. Treason, usually. Vague, unprovable treason. Or maybe some ancient law you violated, some obscure statute from 3 centuries ago that nobody knew existed. You get arrested, property seized, then offered a choice. Face trial, which you'll lose because Henry controls the courts, and be executed. Or pay a massive fine, surrender some lands, and go free. Most people pay, because at least they're alive. At least their families survive. One of Henry's most hated officials is Edmund Dudley, a lawyer, brilliant, ruthless, absolutely terrifying. His job is simple: find ways to extract money from anyone who has it. He's a financial enforcer, an auditor with teeth. He goes through records, looking for violations, looking for excuses, looking for any reason to fine someone, seize property, demand payment. He's brilliant at it, and everyone hates him. Nobles despise him, commoners fear him. He's the face of Henry's oppressive regime, but Henry protects him, because Dudley is making the king rich, filling the treasury, securing the dynasty, and that's all that matters. By the end of his reign, by 1509, Henry VII has amassed a personal fortune estimated at nearly 2 million. In medieval terms, that's an unimaginable amount. In modern terms, adjusted for inflation and economic growth, that's billions, maybe tens of billions. He's one of the wealthiest monarchs in Europe, richer than the King of France, richer than the Holy Roman Emperor, richer than anyone except maybe the Pope. But here's the sickest part. The part that reveals how twisted Henry's become. He doesn't spend it, doesn't use it to improve England, doesn't invest in infrastructure or education or anything productive. He hoards it, locks it away, counts it, obsesses over it. Contemporary accounts describe Henry personally reviewing account books every single night, after dinner, instead of relaxing, instead of entertaining, instead of living. He sits in his chambers, surrounded by ledgers, going through accounts line by line, checking every entry, questioning every expense. This isn't normal. Medieval kings don't do this. They have treasurers, chancellors, financial officials. They sign off on budgets, sure, but they don't personally audit every expense. That's beneath them. That's servant work. Henry does it himself, every night, because he trusts no one, not his treasurers, not his advisors, not even his own son. He questions charges, demands explanations. If something's off by even a few shillings, he investigates, personally. Foreign ambassadors think he's insane. They write home describing this bizarre behaviour. The King of England spends his evenings doing arithmetic, like a merchant, like a moneylender, not like a king. Spanish ambassador. His Majesty's love of gold is remarkable. He concerns himself with every detail of his finances. Venetian ambassador. The king is very wise but also very avaricious. He loves money beyond all things. Avaricious, that's the word they use. Greedy, obsessed. But for Henry, it's not about greed. Not really. Not in the normal sense. It's about control, about security, about making sure that no one, ever, can take away what he's built. Because Henry started with nothing, lived with nothing, survived on nothing, and he's terrified, absolutely terrified, of ending up with nothing again. That fear burrows into his soul, twists him, warps him, turns him into this monstrous figure who cares more about gold than people, who sees his subjects as sources of revenue, not citizens to protect, who squeezes England dry while his treasury overflows. And in his final years, as his body begins to fail, that obsession becomes even darker, even more consuming. Because when you can't control your own body, when disease is eating you from the inside, you grasp at the one thing you can control: money, numbers, the cold, comforting weight of gold, even if it kills you, even if it destroys you, even if, in the end, you die alone and hated while counting coins that can't save you. Let's talk about when things started going wrong. Because Henry's death wasn't sudden, it was slow, a gradual unravelling that took years. The first signs appeared around 1503, the same year Elizabeth of York died, almost like losing her broke something inside him. Or maybe it was just timing. Bad luck. Disease doesn't care about emotions. Henry's 46 years old, not ancient, not young, medieval middle age, and medieval life is hard, even for kings. He's been through wars, battles, years of stress, the constant paranoia of waiting for the next rebellion, the next pretender, the next assassination attempt. That takes a toll. On your mind? On your body? Both. After Elizabeth's death, courtiers notice changes. Henry withdraws more, becomes even more isolated, stops appearing at public events unless absolutely necessary. No more tournaments, no more feasts, no more public displays. He stays in his chambers, working, always working, counting, always counting, and he starts getting sick. Not dramatically, not all at once, but persistently. The kind of sick that doesn't go away, that lingers, that grows. It starts with a cough. Nothing terrible at first, just a persistent cough that won't quit, the kind that makes you clear your throat constantly. That wakes you up at night. That annoys everyone around you. Henry's doctors aren't concerned, not initially. Coughs are common, especially in draughty stone castles, especially in England's damp, miserable climate, rain, fog, cold. Your lungs never fully dry. They prescribe the usual remedies, herbal syrups, honey mixed with vinegar, warm wine before bed, bloodletting because, of course, medieval medicine's answer to everything. Feeling sick? Let's drain some blood. That'll definitely help. It doesn't, obviously, because the problem isn't too much blood. The problem is his lungs are being attacked by bacteria, by tuberculosis, by consumption. But the doctors don't know that. Germ theory won't be discovered for another 350 years. The cough doesn't go away, it gets worse. By 1504, Henry's coughing hard. Really hard. Doubling over. Clutch in his chest, face going red, eyes watering. Courtiers in the next room can hear him. That deep, wet, rattling cough that sounds like something's breaking inside. And then comes the blood. Not a lot at first, just flecks. Little red spots in the phlegm he coughs into handkerchiefs. His doctors notice, but they're still not alarmed. Medieval medicine has all sorts of explanations for blood. None of them correct, but very confident. Imbalanced humours, they say. Too much heat in the body. Excess blood that needs releasing. The solution? More bloodletting. Drain even more blood. Make him weaker. Make the infection worse. But they don't know that. They think they're helping. What Henry almost certainly has is tuberculosis. TB, consumption, as they called it then, a bacterial infection, that attacks the lungs? Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Specifically, it's slow, patient, insidious. You can catch TB and not know it for years, months. It hides in your lungs, dormant. Your immune system fights it, sometimes wins, creates scar tissue, walls it off, sometimes loses, and then it wakes up, starts multiplying, destroying lung tissue, creating cavities, holes where healthy tissue used to be. The symptoms match perfectly. Chronic coughing, night sweats, fever that comes and goes, weight loss, fatigue, and yes, coughing up blood. Hemoptysis, the medical term. As the disease progresses, it destroys blood vessels in the lungs, creates cavities that fill with blood, and when you cough, that blood comes up. Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot, sometimes enough to drown you. Henry's lungs are being destroyed, slowly, and there's no cure, not in 1504, not in 1509, not for another 440 years. Antibiotics won't be discovered until the 1940s. Streptomycin, the first TB drug, comes out in 1943, so for the next 400 plus years after Henry dies, TB is a death sentence. You get it, you die, maybe quickly, maybe slowly, but you die. Where did Henry catch it? Impossible to say. TB was everywhere in medieval England, crowded cities, poor sanitation, no understanding of how disease spreads, people living on top of each other, coughing on each other, sharing cups, sharing beds. It could have been anywhere. A servant, a courtier, someone in London, a merchant, a beggar, anyone. Once infected, the bacteria settle in your lungs. And then it's just a matter of time. Stress makes it worse, weakens your immune system. And Henry? Stress doesn't begin to cover it. He's paranoid, working constantly, sleeping poorly, eating irregularly. His body's under siege from his own mind. And now from bacteria too. By 1505, the symptoms are impossible to ignore. Henry's coughing blood regularly. Not just flecks anymore, actual blood. Thick streaks, sometimes clots, dark red, almost brown. From deep in his lungs. He's losing weight. His face becomes gaunt, hollow cheeks, sunken eyes, sharp cheekbones. His skin takes on a greyish tinge. That pallor, that look of someone who's not getting enough oxygen, whose lungs aren't working properly. He has fevers. They come and go. Spike at night. He wakes up drenched in sweat, sheets soaking wet, blankets soaked through. Servants have to change his bedding. Multiple times a night sometimes. Strip the bed. Lay down fresh linens. Do it again a few hours later. The sweat isn't just dampness, it's drenching. Your body trying desperately to fight an infection. Burning calories, burning through your reserves, making you weaker. He's exhausted, constantly. Just walking across a room leaves him breathless, gasping. Climbing stairs is agony. He has to stop. Rest, catch his breath, his heart pounding, his lungs screaming, and yet, Henry refuses to stop working, refuses to admit weakness, refuses to rest. He still reviews account books every night, still meets with his council, still makes decisions, still runs the kingdom. Because if he stops, if he admits he's dying, then what? Who takes over? His son, Prince Henry, is only 14 in 1505. 15, 16, still too young to rule alone. The nobles would fight over power. Factions would form. Maybe civil war again. Everything Henry built would collapse. Everything he survived for would be destroyed. So he pushes through, coughing blood into handkerchiefs, hiding them from view, stuffing them into his pockets, burning them later so no one sees, pretending he's fine. But everyone knows. Servants whisper, courtiers speculate, foreign ambassadors write home. The King of England is dying. Make preparations, plan for the succession, get ready for chaos. And Henry? He becomes even more paranoid, even more obsessed with control, even more tyrannical, because he can't control his body, can't stop the disease eating him from inside, can't will his lungs to heal, can't force himself to stop coughing, but he can control everything else, his court, his finances, his kingdom, his family. So that's exactly what he does, with a grip that grows tighter and tighter as death closes in, as his fingers become skeletal, as his body wastes away, as the blood comes more frequently, darker, thicker, more ominous. Now let's talk about something genuinely disgusting, something the history books skip over because it's too uncomfortable, too real, too human: the smell. Because tuberculosis doesn't just make you cough blood, it makes you reek. Henry's breath stinks. The infection in his lungs creates an odour. It's described in contemporary accounts, though delicately. Foul breath, grievous scent, most unpleasant air. Translation: he smells like a rotting corpse. While still breathing, the infection produces compounds, bacteria breaking down tissue, creating waste products. Sulfur compounds, volatile organic compounds. They get into your breath, your sweat, your everything. Sweet and rotten at the same time. Like meat gone bad mixed with flowers left in a vase for 3 weeks. That sickly sweet decay smell. Medieval people know this smell. They call it the death smell, the dying smell. The odour that comes off people who are rotting from the inside out, who won't recover, who are walking corpses. And it's not just his breath, it's everything. Henry's sweating constantly. Fever sweats, night sweats, day sweats. His body burning up trying to fight an infection it can't beat. That sweat soaks into his clothes, his bedding, the furniture he sits on, the chairs, the cushions. And in Tudor England, nobody's washing that out properly. There's no dry cleaning, no washing machines. Clothes are expensive. You wear them for days, weeks, maybe brush them off, maybe air them out. But proper washing, rare. So Henry's clothes are soaked with infected sweat, reeking, and he's losing weight, fast, which creates skin folds, folds that collect moisture, bacteria, dead skin, folds in his neck, his armpits, his groin, places that are impossible to clean properly in 1506. No running water, no real soap, no understanding of hygiene beyond try not to smell too bad. Add this, Henry probably has diabetes too. The symptoms fit: constant thirst, wounds that don't heal, mood swings, irritability. Diabetes was called the pissing evil in medieval times because you urinate constantly, your body trying to flush out excess sugar, and diabetes creates a smell, sweet, sickly, fruity almost, like rotting apples. It's ketones on your breath, your body eating itself for fuel, breaking down fat, creating acids. Add this, his teeth are rotting. He's rich enough to afford sugar, expensive imported sugar from the Caribbean, from Arab traders, worth more than gold per pound. Only royalty can afford it. And Henry's eating it, in preserves, candied fruits, sweet wine. And it's destroying his teeth, cavities, abscesses, infected gums. Medieval dental care is non-existent. You brush with a cloth maybe, rinse with wine. That's it. His breath could wilt flowers, kill small animals, make grown men stagger backward. The result? Henry VII, King of England, smells like death, while still breathing. And there's no hiding it, no covering it up. Not really. His servants try, burn through absurd amounts of perfume, rosewater sprayed everywhere, lavender bundles hanging from the ceiling, civet musk rubbed on fabrics, ambergris, whale vomit, incredibly expensive, worth more than gold, burned in censers, frankincense, myrrh, everything. His rooms are constantly fumigated, herbs scattered on the floors, rushes mixed with lavender and rosemary and mint, replaced daily, pomanders hanging everywhere, little perforated balls filled with spices, cloves, cinnamon, orange peel, incense burners in every corner, smoking constantly, filling the air with thick cloying smoke. His clothes are changed multiple times a day, fresh doublets, fresh shirts, fresh hose, fresh everything. Servants taking away the soiled clothes, trying not to gag, trying not to show disgust. Nothing works, nothing masks it completely, because the smell is coming from inside him, from his lungs, from his breath, from his sweat, from his dying body. Foreign ambassadors learn strategies, techniques for dealing with the dying king. Breathe through your mouth, not your nose. Stand near windows. Keep meetings short, very short. Hold a perfumed cloth to your face, but subtly. Don't be obvious, don't offend the king. Don't let him see you recoiling. Courtiers develop the same techniques. Stand upwind if possible. If that's impossible, stand near a door. Keep your face neutral. Don't wrinkle your nose. Don't flinch. Don't gag. Because gagging in front of the king? That could get you dismissed. Beaten, maybe killed. Henry's paranoid, unstable, dying. He sees insults everywhere, treachery everywhere. You show disgust at his smell? You must be plotting against him. Must be. Why else would you insult your king? Servants draw straws for who has to attend him personally. Who has to be in the room? Who has to dress him, undress him, change his sheets, empty his chamber pot? The losers prepare themselves. Elaborate preparations. Wrap cloth around their faces, soaked in vinegar. Vinegar was thought to prevent disease, to purify air. It doesn't, but they don't know that. They stuff their nostrils with herbs, literally stuff them. Lavender, mint, anything strong enough to overpower the death smell. They pray, genuinely pray. Please God, don't let me vomit. Don't let me faint. Don't let me show weakness. One account from 1507, a French ambassador. Guy de Maupassant, or maybe Jean de Beaucaire, the records are unclear. He writes home to King Louis XIV, describing his audience with Henry VII. The letter says, "His Majesty's chamber was most grievously scented despite great efforts made to sweeten the air. One could detect his presence from 3 chambers away. I found it difficult to remain in his company for the duration of our conference." Translation. It smelled like absolute hell in there. I could smell him from 3 rooms away. I wanted to run screaming. Another source, a courtier's private diary, later discovered and published in the 1800s, says the king's presence could be detected throughout the apartments. No amount of perfume or incense could mask the scent of his illness. It was a mercy when audiences were kept brief. A servant interviewed years later during Henry VIII's reign, when it was safe to talk, recalled that changing the king's bedsheets was the most foul duty imaginable. The sheets were stained yellow and brown, with drainage from his lungs and body. The smell was beyond description, a mix of rot and sweetness that made men retch. Let that sink in. Really absorb it. The King of England, founder of the Tudor dynasty, the man who won a throne on a battlefield, who built a fortune, who secured England's future, rotting, leaking, stinking, lying in sheets stained with infected discharge. And everyone knows it. Everyone's trying desperately to pretend they don't notice, to maintain the fiction, the royal fiction, that the king is powerful, strong, in control. But Henry knows. He's not stupid. He sees their faces, the way noses wrinkle involuntarily, the way people lean back, the way they turn their heads slightly, the way they hurry to leave his presence, the way audiences get shorter, the way people make excuses. "Forgive me, Your Majesty, but I have urgent business." They're fleeing, running from the dying king, from the corpse that still breathes, and it's killing him. Not just physically, psychologically. This man who survived everything, who built a dynasty from nothing, who amassed a fortune, who controlled England with an iron grip, reduced to something people hold their breath around, something they avoid, something disgusting. The humiliation is complete, and it's only going to get worse because the disease doesn't stop, doesn't slow, doesn't care about dignity or royalty or legacy. It just eats and eats and eats until there's nothing left. So Henry's dying, his body's betraying him. Everyone can smell it, everyone's waiting, and his mind, it's unraveling. The paranoia reaches new heights, new depths. Because here's the thing about being a paranoid king who's losing control of his own body. You double down on controlling everything else. everything you can still grip. Henry's son, Prince Henry, the future Henry VIII, is being kept at arm's length. The kid's 15 now, 16, 17 as the years pass, tall, athletic, handsome, charismatic, everything his father used to be, everything his father will never be again, everything his father resents. Young Henry is popular. Nobles like him. He jousts, he hunts, he dances, he's charming. Foreign ambassadors praise him, write home describing this golden prince, this future king who will restore England's glory, who will be everything his miserly father isn't. And Henry VII, he sees all this, hears the whispers, reads the reports, and he resents it. Not openly, can't. The boy's his heir, his dynasty's future. But the resentment is there, burning. Because if the prince becomes too popular, too powerful, too beloved, someone might decide to skip the waiting period. Someone might decide the dying king needs to be replaced, now, not later. A quiet assassination, a convenient accident, poison in the wine, a fall down the stairs, and suddenly Prince Henry is King Henry VIII. Young, healthy, popular, everything England wants. So young Henry is kept isolated, no independent household, no real power, no decision-making authority, no participation in government. He's the heir, yes, but he's also a prisoner, a gilded prisoner. His father watches him, always, makes sure he's not gathering support, not making alliances, not plotting, not even accidentally becoming too influential. Is the prince plotting? Probably not. He's a teenager. He wants to joust and hunt and have fun. He's not thinking about power. Not yet. But Henry VII doesn't see a teenage son. He sees a potential usurper, another pretender, another threat, another person who might take his throne. The irony is perfect, darkly perfect. Henry spent years fighting off fake princes, Lambert Simnel, Perkin Warbeck, pretenders claiming to be someone they're not. And now he's terrified of his real son, his legitimate heir, the boy he's supposed to be preparing to rule. Margaret Beaufort is still alive, Henry's mother, the woman who survived childbirth at 13, who plotted for decades to put her son on the throne, who never stopped fighting. She's in her 60s now, late 60s by 1509, ancient by medieval standards. Most people don't live past 50. She should be dead, but she's not. She's still sharp, still calculating, still the most important person in Henry's life. More important than any wife, more important than his children, more important than anyone. She lives at court, has her own apartments, her own household, oversees everything, makes sure Henry's wishes are carried out, makes sure no one takes advantage of his weakness. She's the gatekeeper, the enforcer, the one person Henry trusts, sort of, as much as Henry trusts anyone, mother and son. Two survivors, two paranoid, calculating survivors, clinging to control as death circles, as the walls close in, as time runs out. In 1507, Henry does something that reveals just how far gone he is mentally, how twisted his judgments become. He begins marriage negotiations, for himself, not for his son, for himself. Elizabeth's been dead 4 years. Henry's 50 years old, dying, coughing blood daily, smelling like a corpse, can barely walk, can barely breathe, and he's looking for a wife. The proposed bride, Joanna of Castile. You might know her better as Joanna the Mad. Yes, that's her actual historical nickname. Juana la Loca. She's the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, sister to Catherine of Aragon, who's betrothed to Prince Henry. Should be a perfect political match. Alliance with Spain, one of the most powerful kingdoms in Europe. Brilliant diplomacy. Except there's a massive problem. Joanna is genuinely, clinically insane. After her husband, Philip the Handsome, died in 1506, she had a complete mental breakdown. Refused to bury him, refused to accept he was dead. She carried his corpse around with her, in a coffin, opened it regularly to look at him, talk to him, kiss his decaying face. She travelled across Spain with his body, stopping at churches, having masses said, convinced he would wake up. Eventually, her father Ferdinand had enough. He locked her up in a castle, Tordesillas, for her own safety, he claimed. For everyone's safety, really. She's unstable, dangerous, unpredictable, and Henry VII wants to marry her. Why? The dowry. Massive. Spain's rich. The marriage would bring gold, lots of it, and political alliance, security against France, against the Holy Roman Empire, against everyone. His obsession with security and wealth overrides everything else, including basic sanity, including self-preservation, including the obvious fact that marrying an insane woman when you're dying is a terrible idea. But Henry pursues it, seriously, sends ambassadors, negotiates terms, discusses dowry amounts. The negotiations go nowhere. Ferdinand has no intention of shipping his unstable daughter to dying England. He makes excuses, delays, eventually just ignores Henry's ambassadors. But the fact that Henry tried, that he seriously pursued marrying Joanna the Mad, while he's dying, while he smells like death, while he can barely walk, it tells you everything about his mental state. He's not thinking clearly, can't. The disease, the paranoia, the isolation, the fear, it's all warping his judgment, destroying his reason. He's desperate, grasping, trying to secure everything, control everything, right up until the moment he dies. By 1508, Henry barely leaves his chambers. Can't. The coughing is constant, violent. His whole body convulses. Each cough feels like his chest is ripping apart. The blood is darker now, thicker, almost black sometimes. Old blood from deep in his lungs, from cavities that won't heal, from vessels that keep bleeding. His breathing is laboured, wet, rattling. Every breath sounds like he's drowning. Because he is. Slowly. His lungs filling with fluid, with blood, with infection. Drowning from the inside. His legs swell. Edema. Fluid building up. His heart's failing. Not pumping properly. Can't. His lungs aren't oxygenating his blood. His circulation's shot. Fluid pools in his legs, his ankles, his feet. They blow up. Painful. Stretched skin. Sometimes weeping. Fluid leaking through the skin. He can't walk without help. Can't. Servants have to support him. One on each side, practically carrying him. Sometimes they do carry him. Lift him bodily. Move him from bed to chair. Chair to bed. He's skeletal. Easy to carry. 90 pounds maybe. Maybe less. His skin is grey, not pale. Grey. The colour of someone who's not getting enough oxygen. Whose organs are shutting down. Whose body's dying piece by piece. His eyes sink deeper into his skull. Disappearing. The flesh around them is purple-black, like bruises, like he's been beaten. But it's just death, just his body failing. His lips are blue-tinged, cyanotic, not enough oxygen. His fingernails too, blue-grey. His hands shake, constantly, tremor, from weakness, from nerve damage, from his body shutting down. He stops eating solid food, can't. Swallowing is difficult, makes him cough, makes him choke, makes him panic. So he survives on broths, thin soups, watered wine, anything liquid that he can sip slowly, carefully. He's lost most of his teeth. They've rotted out, fallen out, pulled out by barber surgeons when the pain got too bad. So even if he could eat, he couldn't chew. His weight drops, and drops, and drops. He was never a large man. 5'8" maybe. Average for medieval times, probably weighed 140 pounds in his prime. Muscular from horseback riding, from wearing armour, from fighting. Now, maybe 90 pounds, maybe less. His clothes hang off him, literally hang. Like he's a child wearing his father's clothes. His wrists are so thin they look breakable, like twigs. His neck disappears. Just skin stretched over spine. You can see every bone, every vertebra. His collarbones jut out, sharp. His ribs visible through his shirt. His face is a skull. just a skull with skin stretched over it. Lips pulled back, teeth, what's left of them, visible, eyes huge in their sockets, staring, and through it all, he's still working, still trying to control everything, still reviewing account books, still signing documents, still issuing orders. His hand shakes so badly the signatures are barely legible. Scrawls, scratches. Sometimes he has to try multiple times, gripping the quill so hard it breaks, ink splattering, but he doesn't stop, can't stop. Because stopping means admitting defeat, admitting he's dying, admitting he's lost control. And Henry Tudor has never admitted defeat in his life. Never. Not in exile, not in battle, not in 24 years of ruling. He's not starting now, even when defeat is drowning him. Literally drowning him in his own blood. Now let's talk about the final days. April 1509, Richmond Palace, southwest of London. Henry VII is dying, not might die soon, not seriously ill, dying right now. Everyone knows it. The court's in a strange state, half mourning, half celebrating, because nobody liked Henry VII. Respected him maybe, feared him absolutely, but liked, loved? No. He squeezed England dry, made everyone miserable, hoarded gold while people starved, and now he's finally dying, finally. He's been moved to his bedchamber, permanently, not leaving, can't, doesn't have the strength, can barely sit up. The room's dark, curtains drawn, because light hurts his eyes, makes his head ache, makes everything worse. Candles everywhere though, dozens, because you need light to see, to work, and Henry's still trying to work, still issuing orders, still signing documents brought to his bedside. The coughing is continuous now, not occasional, continuous, every few minutes, sometimes more often. Violent coughing fits that double him over, that make him clutch his chest, that make servants rush forward thinking he's dying right then. Each cough brings up blood, lots of blood, dark, thick, clotted. He spits it into bowls placed by his bedside, silver bowls, because even dying he's the king. Can't use pottery, too common. The bowls fill quickly, servants take them away, empty them, burn the contents, try to hide the evidence, but there's always more. The bleeding never stops. He can't lie down anymore, physically can't. When he lies flat, the fluid in his lungs makes him feel like he's drowning, like someone's holding a pillow over his face, like he's underwater. Panic, terror, can't breathe, so he sleeps propped up. If you can call it sleep, half sitting, surrounded by pillows, mountains of pillows, propping him up, supporting him, his head lolling forward, gasping, wheezing, rattling. He drifts in and out of consciousness, fever dreams mixing with reality. Sometimes he wakes gasping, clutching his chest, convinced he's dying right then. Servants rush to him. "Your Majesty, my lord, breathe, sire." He does somehow. Another breath, another hour, another day. His doctors are useless, completely useless. They know it. He knows it. Everyone knows it. They're just going through the motions now, pretending, keeping up appearances. They try things anyway, because what else can they do? More bloodletting. Even though he barely has any blood left. Leeches placed on his chest, on his arms, sucking, draining, making him weaker. Hot poultices applied to his chest, burning his skin, leaving blisters. The idea is to draw out the disease. It doesn't work, obviously. Prayers, lots of prayers, priests summoned, chanting in Latin, preparing his soul, because if they can't save his body, at least they can try to save his soul. Maybe Prince Henry is kept away, far away, under guard. His grandmother, Margaret Beaufort, is with him, at a different palace, protecting him, making sure nothing happens to the heir. Because if Prince Henry dies before his father, chaos, civil war, everything Henry VII built collapses, so the prince is isolated, guarded, kept safe, waiting, just waiting for his father to die so he can finally live, finally rule, finally be free. In the bedchamber, Henry VII is alone, surrounded by people but alone. Servants attend him, doctors pretend to help, priests pray, but no family, no friends. Did he even have friends? Probably not. How can a paranoid king have friends? Everyone's a potential traitor, everyone's plotting, everyone wants something. So no friends, just functionaries, just people doing their jobs, waiting for him to die so they can move on to the next task, the next king, the next regime. The priests are giving him last rites, extreme unction, the final sacrament. Oil on his forehead, on his hands, on his feet. Holy words, absolution, forgiveness for sins. And Henry has sins. He knows it. Knows he's done terrible things, ordered executions, sometimes on flimsy evidence, sometimes on no evidence. Just suspicion. Just paranoia. Ruined families, seized property, squeezed England dry, made people suffer. All for security, all for gold, all for control. Does he regret any of it? The accounts don't tell us. Medieval deathbed scenes were carefully curated, edited, made presentable, but we can imagine, we can picture it. A man lying there, skeletal, grey, suffocating, knowing his life is ending, counting up the cost. Was it worth it? All that money, all that paranoia, all that fear, all that suffering, his and others. Was any of it worth it? He's leaving behind a kingdom, yes, stable, secure. His son will be king, uncontested. The Tudor dynasty will continue. That's something. That's everything he fought for. But at what cost? Henry VII is not loved, not even liked. He's feared, respected maybe, grudgingly, but not loved. When he dies, there will be no public mourning, no genuine grief, no tears except from his mother. Just relief, blessed relief. The miser king is dead. The squeezing stops, the taxation ends. Maybe things will get better. Maybe the new king will be different. Everyone's hoping, praying, waiting. Around midday on April 21st, 1509, Henry's breathing changes. Gets slower, more shallow, longer pauses between breaths. 10 seconds, 20, 30. Is this it? The priests stop praying. Watch, wait. The servants hold their breath, everyone frozen. Another breath comes, wet, rattling, horrible, liquid gurgling in his lungs. Then nothing. Silence. Is he dead? Wait. Another breath, weaker, quieter. Then nothing again. Longer this time. 40 seconds, 50, a full minute. Then one more, just one, barely a whisper. A slight rise and fall of his chest, and then nothing. Henry VII, King of England, founder of the Tudor dynasty, is dead. He's 52 years old, looks 80, his body destroyed, his lungs shredded, his life consumed by fear and gold and paranoia. They wait a few minutes, make sure, check for breath, for pulse, nothing. He's gone. The announcement is made, messengers sent, the king is dead. Long live the king. Prince Henry is now Henry VIII, 18 years old, tall, athletic, charismatic, everything his father wasn't. The Golden Prince is finally king. The contrast couldn't be more stark, more brutal. The old king, grey and wasted, the new king, young and vibrant. It's like England is being reborn, emerging from darkness into light, from winter into spring, from death into life. Henry VIII's first act as king is telling, revealing. He arrests Edmund Dudley and Richard Empson, his father's tax collectors, the financial enforcers, the men everyone hates, the faces of Henry VII's oppressive regime. They're charged with treason. It's a false charge, complete bullshit. Everyone knows it. Dudley and Empson were following Henry VII's orders. They weren't traitors. They were servants doing their jobs. Jobs everyone hated, yes, but still. Legal. Authorised. The charges won't stand up in any honest court. But Henry VIII doesn't care. The people want blood, want revenge, want someone to pay for years of financial oppression, years of bonds, years of fines, years of having their wealth extracted by these two men. So Henry VIII gives them what they want. Dudley and Empson are tried, convicted, executed, beheaded on Tower Hill, their heads placed on spikes on London Bridge, put on display, rotting in the sun, pecked by crows, and the crowd cheers. Fucking cheers, finally. Justice, revenge. The old regime is dead, literally dead. Long live the new king. Henry VII's legacy is being erased, before his body's even buried, before his funeral, before anything. Just erased, wiped away. Nobody wants to remember him. Nobody wants to honour him. They want to forget, want to move on, want to pretend those 24 years didn't happen. So what happened to Henry VII's body after he died? Let's talk about that, because it's where the grotesque becomes ceremonial, where death becomes theatre. The corpse is embalmed, medieval style, which means it's brutal, barbaric. First, they remove the organs, all of them. Heart, lungs, or what's left of them, probably just shredded tissue and cavities. Liver, kidneys, intestines, stomach, everything that rots quickly, everything that would smell, everything that would attract flies and rats and corruption. The organs are placed in separate containers, lead boxes usually. The heart goes in a special casket, sometimes buried with the body, sometimes given to a church, sometimes buried separately at a place the king favoured. Henry's heart probably went to Westminster Abbey with his body, but the records aren't clear. The body cavity, now empty, is washed, cleaned out, then packed with spices, expensive spices, myrrh, aloes, frankincense, anything aromatic that might slow decay, that might cover the smell. It doesn't work very well. Decomposition is a powerful force, but they try. The body is then wrapped, cerakoth, linen soaked in wax and resin, layer after layer after layer, creating a sealed cocoon, waterproof, airtight, trying to preserve the corpse, trying to keep it from rotting, trying to maintain the dignity of kingship even in death. That wrapped body goes into a lead coffin. Lead is expensive, heavy, but it doesn't breathe, doesn't let air in, doesn't let moisture in, slows decomposition significantly. The lead coffin is soldered shut, sealed permanently. That lead coffin goes inside a wooden one, elaborate, ornate, covered in black cloth, velvet usually, royal insignia embroidered in gold thread, coat of arms, Tudor roses, dragons, greyhounds, all the symbols of kingship, all the pomp, all the ceremony. And then Henry VII lies in state, for weeks, first at Richmond Palace where he died, his body displayed in the chapel, candles everywhere, hundreds of candles, guards standing watch, nobles filing past, paying respects, supposedly mourning. Then the body is moved, carried in procession to London, to St. Paul's Cathedral. More lying in state, more candles, more guards, more nobles filing past, more fake mourning. Are they sad? Some maybe, most? No. They're relieved. They're confirming, making sure he's really dead, making sure this nightmare is really over. The funeral is elaborate, expensive, exactly what Henry wanted. He planned it himself years earlier, left detailed instructions, hundreds of mourners, nobles in black, clergy in vestments, priests chanting, masses said for his soul. Henry was terrified of hell, of damnation, of divine judgment, so he wanted lots of masses, lots of prayers, lots of intercession, trying to buy his way into heaven like he bought everything else. His body is carried through London, slow procession, from St. Paul's to Westminster Abbey. Crowds line the streets, thousands of people. Are they mourning? No, they're watching, witnessing, confirming. The tyrant is dead. The miser is gone. The squeezing is over. Some probably cheer, quietly, where the guards can't hear. At Westminster Abbey, Henry VII is buried next to Elizabeth of York, his Yorkist queen, the woman he married to unite the kingdoms, the mother of his children. They lie side by side, united in death. Maybe more united than they ever were in life. A tomb is commissioned, designed by Pietro Torrigiano, famous Italian sculptor, one of the best in Europe. Michelangelo's contemporary. Actually fought with Michelangelo once, broke his nose. But that's another story. The tomb takes years to complete. It's not finished until 1518, 9 years after Henry's death. But when it's done, it's magnificent, truly beautiful. Gilt bronze, elaborately carved, Renaissance masterpiece. Their effigies lie on top. Henry and Elizabeth, life-sized, peaceful. Hands folded in prayer, faces serene, beautiful. Everything Henry's actual death wasn't. The tomb still exists. You can visit it today. Westminster Abbey, the Lady Chapel. It's behind the main altar, in a special chapel dedicated to Henry VII. It's quiet there, respectful, peaceful. Tourists file through, take photos, read the plaque. Henry VII, founder of the Tudor dynasty, born 1457, died 1509. Just dates, just facts. Nothing about the paranoia, nothing about the hoarding, nothing about the painful, slow, disgusting death. Just clean history, sanitized, made presentable, but underneath that bronze, underneath the marble floor, underneath the reverent atmosphere, underneath all the beauty and ceremony, just bones. The flesh rotted away 500 years ago. The skin, the muscle, the organs, all gone. Returned to dust. Henry VII's body, the one that coughed blood and wasted away. The one that smelled like death, it's gone, dissolved, eaten by bacteria and time and the inevitable decay of all flesh. All that remains now are bones, fragments, maybe not even intact anymore. 500 years is a long time. Lead coffins aren't perfect, water seeps in. Bacteria find ways, bones decay too eventually. Maybe there's nothing left at all. Maybe just dust, just minerals, just the faintest trace of a man who once held absolute power. So let's talk about Henry VII's legacy, because it's complicated, messy, contradictory, like everything about him. What did he actually accomplish? Was any of it worth the suffering? His suffering? England's suffering? Everyone's suffering? Was the paranoia justified? Was the hoarding necessary? Was building a dynasty worth dying alone and hated? First, stability. When Henry took the throne in 1485, England was shattered, broken. 30 years of civil war, the Wars of the Roses, families destroyed, nobles bankrupted, castles burned, towns ruined, the economy in shambles, trust completely gone, everyone suspicious of everyone. When he died in 1509, England was stable. The civil wars were over. Succession was secure. Henry VIII took the throne without opposition, without rebellion, without civil war. That's huge, that's everything. 24 years of peace. Well, relative peace. No major civil wars anyway. That alone is an achievement. A massive achievement. Second, wealth. Henry left his son a fortune. Nearly $2 million, a full treasury, overflowing, resources to build, to expand, to project power, to wage wars if necessary, to fund the Renaissance, to patronize artists, to build palaces. Henry VIII spent it all in about 10 years. Tournaments, wars in France, palaces, wives, wasted it. But that's not Henry VII's fault. He left the money. What his son did with it wasn't his responsibility. Third, diplomacy. Henry avoided expensive wars, negotiated instead, formed alliances through marriages, made England relevant on the European stage. When he took the throne, England was a backwater, a chaotic mess. Nobody took it seriously. When he died, England mattered. Not a superpower, not yet, but respected, feared slightly, a player, a kingdom that couldn't be ignored. Fourth, administration. Henry reformed government, professionalized it, created systems for collecting taxes, for managing courts, for enforcing laws, for running a country efficiently. It was oppressive, absolutely. Tyrannical, even. But it worked. It created a foundation for centralized royal power, for the strong monarchy that would define Tudor England, for the power that would eventually create the British Empire. That foundation started with Henry VII. But here's the complicated part, the part that makes his legacy ambiguous. Henry VII's success is tied to his son, to Henry VIII. And Henry VIII destroyed almost everything his father built. The wealth, spent, wasted, gone within years. The stability, shattered by the break from Rome, by religious upheaval, by dissolving monasteries, by executing wives, by creating chaos. The careful diplomacy, replaced by ego, by impulsiveness, by personal whims, by declaring wars for pride, for glory, for no good reason. In a weird way, Henry VII's paranoia was justified. He built something stable, something secure, something carefully balanced, and the moment he died, it started crumbling. Not because the foundation was weak, but because his son was too confident, too reckless, too sure of himself, too willing to break things. Henry VIII feared losing control, feared chaos, feared instability. Henry VIII never feared anything, never doubted himself, never questioned his own judgment. And that fearlessness, that absolute confidence, destroyed what his father spent his life building. So was it worth it? The paranoia, the hoarding, the squeezing, the isolation, the slow, painful, humiliating death. Did it accomplish anything lasting? Yes and no. He founded a dynasty that lasted 118 years. That included 5 monarchs. That included Elizabeth III, one of England's greatest rulers, one of history's most successful monarchs. That legacy is real. That matters. But he also traumatized his son. Henry VIII grew up watching his father, watching the paranoia, the hoarding, the isolation, the mistrust, and he rebelled against it, became the opposite. Spendthrift where his father was miserly, impulsive where his father was calculating, excessive where his father was restrained, trusting where his father was paranoid. Well, trusting until you crossed him, then you died. But still, the point stands. Henry VIII defined himself in opposition to his father. Everything Henry VII was, Henry VIII wasn't. Henry VII's death from tuberculosis might be poetic justice, cosmic irony. A man who controlled everything, dying from something he couldn't control. A man who hoarded gold, discovering that gold can't buy health, can't buy breath, can't buy life, or it might just be bad luck, random chance. Disease doesn't care about symbolism, doesn't care about narrative, it just kills. Either way, his death revealed something fundamental about power, something true, something uncomfortable. You can hoard it, you can clutch it desperately, you can build walls of gold around it, you can trust no one, you can control everything, but in the end, you can't take it with you. When Henry VII died, all his gold meant nothing. All his account books were worthless. All his bonds and recognizances and financial leverage evaporated. He was just another body, just another corpse, rotting, returning to dust, no different from a peasant, no different from anyone. The dynasty continued. Yes, but not because of him, not really, because of systems he created, because of momentum, because of the foundation he built. The systems outlasted the man. Maybe that's success. Maybe that's the best anyone can hope for. Building something that survives you, even if you're forgotten. Henry VII died terrified, alone, suffocating, counting gold in his mind while his body gave out. Unable to control the one thing that mattered most, his own life, his own death. And maybe that's the real legacy, the unspoken one, the uncomfortable one, the one nobody talks about, the founder of the Tudor dynasty, the great survivor, the man who won a throne and held it for 24 years, died in fear, in pain, in isolation, with nothing but numbers to comfort him, and nobody mourned, nobody grieved, they just moved on. To the golden prince, to the new regime, to the future. Henry VII became the past immediately, and then he became forgotten, almost erased, a footnote, the father of Henry VIII, the founder of the dynasty, the guy before the interesting stuff happened. That's his legacy? That's what he's remembered for? Or rather, not remembered for? Because who remembers Henry VII? Ask someone to name a Tudor monarch. They'll say Henry VIII, the wives, the break from Rome, the drama, or Elizabeth II as the Virgin Queen, the Golden Age, the Armada, or maybe Mary, Bloody Mary, the Catholic Restoration, the Burnings, or Edward VI, the Boy King, the Protestant Reformer. But Henry VII, who's that? Oh right, the founder, the first one, the boring one, the one with no drama, no wives, no beheadings, just paranoia and gold. Not interesting, not worth remembering, and maybe that's the cruelest irony of all. Henry VII spent his life building, securing, establishing a dynasty, making sure the Tudor name would last, would matter, would be remembered. And it is. The Tudor dynasty is one of the most famous in history, but Henry VII himself? Forgotten, eclipsed by his son, by his grandchildren, by everyone who came after. He built the stage, they took the spotlight, he laid the foundation, they built the palace, he planted the tree, they enjoyed the shade. And when he died, coughing blood, alone in the dark, did he know, did he realise that everything he built would be remembered, but he wouldn't be? That his son would waste his fortune and eclipse his memory? That his grandson would be forgotten, but his granddaughter would be legendary? Did he know that 500 years later, people would walk past his tomb without stopping, without reading the plaque, without caring? Did he know that his horrible death, his slow suffocation, his painful decay would be overshadowed by his son's dramatic life? By Henry VIII's 6 wives, and break from Rome and larger-than-life personality? Probably not. Probably he died believing he'd be remembered, honoured, respected, as the founder, as the man who saved England, who ended the civil wars, who built the Tudor dynasty. But history had other plans. History loves drama, loves personality, loves scandal and romance and violence. History loves Henry VIII. History tolerates Henry VIII. That's his legacy. So tonight, when you close your eyes, think about Henry VIII, the king nobody remembers, the founder nobody honours, the man who won everything and lost himself, who survived exile and assassination and rebellion and betrayal, but couldn't survive his own body, who died coughing blood in the dark, clutching account books with shaking hands, trusting no one, not even himself. Think about him, the forgotten king, the erased founder, the man who built a dynasty and died alone. Because that's the real horror of power. It doesn't matter how much you have, how carefully you guard it, how desperately you clutch it, how many coins you count. In the end, you're just a body rotting, returning to dust. And if you're lucky, someone might remember your name. If you're not, you become Henry VII, the king nobody knows, the founder nobody remembers, the man who died horribly and disappeared, whose grave is visited but not mourned, whose tomb is photographed but not understood, whose life was suffering and whose death was worse, and whose legacy is being forgotten by everyone except the few who care about the boring parts of history, the parts without drama, without scandal, without 6 wives, just a man, a paranoid, lonely, suffering man, who coughed blood and counted gold and trusted no one, who built a dynasty and died alone, who won a crown and lost his humanity, who survived everything except the one thing nobody survives: death. Slow, painful, inevitable death, sweet dreams.